Check your launchers. The Unreal Engine 5.0.2 hotfix is now available on the Epic Games Launcher and GitHub. This release features over 300 fixes, from crashes to typos and everything in between. Head to the forums to dig into the complete list of changes while you update. Let the challenge commence. Our brand new Unreal Challenge, that is. These new events will focus on developing specific Unreal Engine skill sets, and first up is lighting. Show off your real-time lighting skills and enter for a chance at up to $1,000 cash, plus great prizes from Kitbash 3D, Sketchfab, and oh, did we mention swag? Get the full contest details on the Unreal Challenge Better Light Than Never forum announcement. Need some supplies? Well, stock up during this month's massive marketplace sale. Over 10,000 products from your favorite sellers are on sale at up to 70% off. Add dark, fantastical creatures to your games, set your players venturing through vast forests or tangled temples, manage your inventory like a pro, and so much more. Shop the massive marketplace sale now through Friday, June 3rd. Will humanity be able to stop the orc invasion? Animation Studio M2 put that question at the heart of their latest project, an action-packed cinematic for Games Workshop's long-awaited reimagining of Warhammer's Kill Team tabletop fantasy game. From tabletop to screen, discover how the team built this stunning cinematic in our spotlight on the Unreal Engine feed. We're kicking off our community spotlights with a lovely piece from Thomas Baldeck. Built in UE5, they leveraged free Quixel Megascans assets and others to fill out the environment around their self-created buildings. Pop over to their ArtStation page to see more. Next up, Oscar Mata is working on a pretty rad UE5 look dev tool. Republic RT is meant to help visualize shading changes on models, compare iterations, showcase lighting, or even get you ready for those client presentations. Head to the forums to let them know your feedback on this first public iteration of Republic RT. Get ready for your next adventure. From Xiaomeng Studio, in the project codenamed Wandering Sword, play as a young man who's accidentally involved in a feud and gets seriously poisoned. Luckily, the sect leader of Wudang comes to your aid and saves you. Now follow your dreams to become a great wuxia and explore the vast pixelated world. Wishlist Wandering Sword on Steam. Thanks for watching this week's news and community spotlight.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Inside Unreal, a weekly show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything Unreal. I am your host, Tina, and today with me I have two absolutely incredible superstar guests. I cannot tell you all how excited I am to have both of them here. The amount of information and just wealth of knowledge between these two guests alone, I feel so out of my depth. It's incredible. But to start us off, William, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm absolutely flattered. If you want to go ahead and start the reel, so basically I'm William Fauché. I've been working in the games industry for a good 7 or so years. And then after that, I moved over to the film industry where I then worked in VFX. So I've always been a bit of a 3D generalist of sorts. And so I've done everything from, modeling, texturing, a little bit of animation, lighting, rendering, even a little bit of compositing as well. So I've done a little bit of everything throughout my career. Another thing that's kind of, having worked in both the games and film industry, can definitely have helped, help other help the other VFX artists transition from, a typical VFX pipeline and jump into real-time solutions like Unreal. Because, as everyone knows, a game engine behaves very differently from other offline renderers. So helping people bridge the gap there had definitely been my main, my main target audience, for lack of a better word. So yeah, so that's a little bit. As of now, I'm making Unreal Engine tutorials on YouTube, as most of you already know, and I'm also teaching part-time at CG Spectrum. And that's pretty much it for me.
Just absolutely incredible. I love that reel as well, I have to say. It's so good. And then, of course, next up on our incredible list of guest tiers, we have Pasquale. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Tina. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, my name is Pasquale Scionti, and I'm a senior lighting artist. I worked in Unreal Engine around 6 years. I'm into Unreal Engine. Before I was in ArcViz, so I was creating 3D interiors and exteriors, and that helped me a lot with the composition and knowledge of lighting and everything else came from there. So yeah, I'm happy, excited to be here with William, and this is gonna be great.
Likewise, man. I know we've kind of been sort of in touch over the years, and I think we kind of always knew who we were, but I think it's nice that this is kind of the first time we're actually having a proper face-to-face dialogue. So I feel like I already know you, but not really. So it's like
That's awesome. And we're both Canadians, even.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess that's something I didn't mention earlier. Yeah, I mean, I'm Canadian, born and raised. I'm born in the small town of Sherbrooke, which is like 2 hours ish from Montreal. And yeah, so fresh Canadian here. And Pasquale, you're from Hamilton, right?
Yeah, I'm based in Hamilton. I was born in Vancouver, 13 years old, and then my parents were relocated to Italy, and I stayed there another 13 years. I'm back to Canada now.
Nice.
Couldn't stay away.
Back and forth, yeah.
Well, Pasquale, I think you also had a quick little video that showed some of your work as well, right?
Yeah, it's a sizzle reel.
Again,
That looks so awesome,
just
man.
right.
Thanks.
Incredible work.
Yeah,
I'm speechless.
thanks. It's just a mix
You
of
got a huge
moods and
work there. I mean, 'cause you're mostly working
Yeah.
as a lighter, right?
composition,
Yeah,
lighting,
cool.
and it's my main
Right.
focus.
And is that what you do? Like, what do you do for work now, mostly? Like, what's your day to day look
Um,
like?
It's like lighting scenes and mood. Lighting and mood scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Theory-
just
theory now. Yeah. Thanks.
Are you
it's
working as a game
genuinely
designer right now?
incredible.
Yeah, I work for Ninja Theory.
Okay.
Yeah, Xbox Studio, and yeah, in my spare time, I just create my Unreal, little experiments there, and just trying to do Unreal Engine 4, Unreal Engine 5, and just learning, all the new things that are coming out.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Exploring the plethora of tools that are
Oh,
available.
it never stops.
Totally changing. It changes so
Yes.
fast. It's almost exhausting. You're like, all right, I'm finally getting a grasp of like the new tools, and then you're just swamped
And
with
then
like
boom, yeah.
20 more new tools. Like, oh, I have to learn this too. Oh, crap. And diagnose it, and kind of figure out all the bugs, and then like make videos about it. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
it never ends. So
Yeah, I imagine it's. I feel like for me, it can be overwhelming sometimes keeping up and everything. So for the two of you, it's got to be that times 10, just Sonic mode all of the time.
Yeah.
pretty much that sums up
But
the past few years for sure.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But to talk a little bit more about why we have these two wonderful, incredible guests that I will continue to fangirl over for the rest of the stream, so I apologize in advance, just so everybody is aware. Let's get that out of the way now. But to talk a little bit more about why they're here, so these two incredible, wonderful, beautiful lighting artists have agreed to be some of the judges for our Unreal Engine challenge that we are kicking off. It is called Better Light Than Never. And this challenge is open to the community. We have two different sections. We have one for our normal users and we have one for students. So for any viewers who are watching that may be students that are worried about going up against people who are professionals who have been doing this for a long time, no worries. We don't want you to feel excluded and we want you to jump in and learn as much as you can. So we have a section dedicated specifically for you. So this challenge, what we're doing, we're encouraging you to create a short video showcasing your lighting abilities, specifically pulling inspiration or guidance from the title itself, Better Light Than Never. Now, with that title, it is up for interpretation, so don't feel like you have to take it super literally. You can if you want to. There's nothing saying that you can't, but the whole point is taking that theme and putting your own twist, your own turn onto it. And I encourage you to get as creative as you can with it. Have fun. Build up a scene yourself. Leverage available marketplace products, Kitbash 3D's provided content, or anything else you've stashed away in your vault. Then make it shine. We want to see how you make those environments convey a feeling. Remember, it's all about the lighting, this end result. What kind of emotion are you trying to evoke from whoever is looking at your project? Your efforts can earn you a chance to win up to $1,000 in cash, plus Kitbash 3D and Sketchfab. Sketchbag, I'm claiming it now, licenses. And as well as swag. There's a whole bunch of prizes and stuff available as well. So not only that, but we also do have a set aside of round of prizes for students specifically as well. You'll have 4 weeks to complete your task. All submissions are due by June 26, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, we're going to dive a little bit more into why we have these two here as well. So these two obviously are going to be judges, and who better to show you some little tips and tricks of lighting, learn a little bit of the trade, than the people who will be looking at your entries themselves. So
Yeah, exciting to be a judge with William on this one, and because we're focusing on lighting, so yeah, I want to that gets this challenge. Tell us a story. So lighting is really awesome on this scene. Yeah, we could dive in and could show something, some of my scenes. So the first scene I wanted to show is the Elden Ring inspired scene. So this one here, it's created with Unreal Engine 4.27.2, and everything is real time. So vanilla version, no baking, no RTX. Just to see how everything is. There's only distance field meshes activated, enabled here. Other than that, everything else is from the post process. So yeah, let's dive into it. Let me get my joypad. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, so here we are in game. And these are just little tests that I create just to see, how the lighting reacts to and behaves in the environment, surroundings. The characters, everything's from Marketplace, from Unreal Engine Marketplace, and then I just brushed the terrain inside Unreal Engine using Quixel Megascans to help me out even. And the trees are Quixel Megascans, and they look pretty awesome. The character was rigged using ALS4. It's a really great tool to rig your characters, and I always use that. Yeah, because you could switch to first-person mode. In this case, you can't do that because he has a helmet on, but I'll show you in another scene how that works. So essentially here, everything is all real-time, vanilla version. Nothing is baked, and we're not using RTX.
I think that's important to mention too, because a lot of people don't have, RTX GPU.
Yeah.
They're still on
Yeah.
you think a 1070 or something, and
Perfect.
a 1070 doesn't necessarily run super hot in UE5. I mean, it can, it works great, but sometimes when you start pushing those polys, it slows down a bit. So like a lot of people I know are still sticking with UE4 at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. It's a great powerful engine, and some of my best work was done in UE4 anyway. So you go figure.
Yeah, and everyone could create your lighting scene with Unreal Engine 4 if you don't have Unreal Engine 5, or you're still learning Unreal Engine 5. You could still use Unreal Engine 4. And I'll show you some cinematics now that it could look great. So let's stop this in game, and let's go to the cinematics. I can show you. So in the cinematics, it's normally what I do here is I focus on the details where the cameras are. So, and I try to use my camera just slowly. And I like to use fast cameras, so it's better to to get more attention. Like you could see the surroundings, what are happening. I'm gonna scroll a little bit manual, but like in this case, we're focusing on this stump here, and yeah, this is what you could do with Unreal Engine 4 all real time. I'll just scroll and go faster. Like in this part here, I put more details, where the camera is. So like stones, little leaves, just to give some more attention to the cinematic. Yeah, we're excited to see what you guys are going to bring to the lighting part and to the composition. And it's really important composition because when you create your scene, you don't get the assets of a Megascan. You just put them in there. Yeah, there's just a way to create things not. And essentially here we're using a Hemisphere plugin that you could find on the marketplace. It's using HDR images, and they're captured in everything is real time. What I did here, I insert a light, directional light, just to give that little more. Everything was overcast, so that's what I did. And the fog is usually on my scenes. I use 90% is fog.
It's like the best. It's like that extra little sauce that just makes everything magical.
Yeah, it's crazy the fog what it does. So Hemisphere here it is. It's a plugin that has everything is in there. So you have sunlight, skylight.
I never used that plugin before.
Great. It's great, and I use physical-based lighting, so they're all real world values. Yeah, and this with fog off. And this is the fog
nice.
off.
Yeah, it just makes such a big difference. It's hilarious.
Yeah, especially my other scene like Silent Hill. Talk about Silent Hill, my inspired scene. We could go and dive and look at that. I'll put this down for now. Okay, so this, if someone, not everyone has an RTX card, so hopefully Lumen, you could use Lumen without RTX card. This is what we're doing in this case. This is my Silent Hill environment scene, and we're using Lumen with no RTX and no virtual shadows and nothing, so only Lumen. And this is the day version of it. And even here, I like to use in my scenes physical-based lighting, just to be a little bit accurate. Depends on the scene even. So like in this case, we're using the intensity lux of the sun. So here I'm using sun and sky. I use it a lot. This plugin is really great. Essentially, it's a sky with everything in there. So sky atmosphere, directional light, skylight, everything is all in there. Directional light, we have 75,000 lux for a bright sunny day. And in the post process, the EV, min, and max are set to 14. And if you want to use physical based lighting in your scene, you have to activate the exposure range. If you take exposure in your project settings, you have to enable this. So extend default luminance range and auto exposure settings to use physical based lighting. So yeah, let's dive into in-game here and see how it is. So here I always use, the character was created with CC3, Character Creator from Reallusion. It's a great software. And I messed the poses out a little bit with Substance Painter. So here we could see the switch, when I switch to the first person, how great it looks. You can always see the mesh here. Yeah, this scene I did so many versions of this scene because it's just for testing. So I did like a sunny scene, a night scene, overcast, sunset, and every type of mood or environment lighting I did in this scene. So it was modeled with 3ds Max, the Silent Hill sign, and all the gas station modeled with 3ds Max and Substance Painter, just to help me out on the texture side. Here we're using Lumen, no 8K texture, so we have 4K textures just for performance. And let's go in the forest and let's see how much light we could have in here. This is what I like with the fog. You could see. Oh, big mushrooms there. Yeah, essentially this scene. So what I do, I create. We go up more. Usually I create a little terrain. So inside Unreal Engine, I just create. There we go. Yeah, just a small terrain just to test. And then I start brushing everything in there. So trees. I'm going to use the master material for the landscape. Master material. You can find many of them, plenty on Unreal Engine Marketplace. So this is the daytime version. Now let's go see the nighttime what happens. Let's hope it doesn't crash because I have 3 Unreal Engine open. Okay, here we are. Okay, see, good. So for the night version, what I did in the night version, in the blueprint, I attached a little light on his front here. Yeah, we have some lighting around. This is always using Lumen, no RTX, and no virtual shadow maps, and no Nanite. And I'll show you in a while now what the fog does when it's on and when it's off. Especially this scene, I know that there's plenty of fog in here. So let's go see right away what happens.
Fog is so important, especially for night shots. Like it just adds so much more. Yeah. It's every time I've worked on a nighttime shot with no fog, it looks terrible. And then the moment you put the fog in there, it's like, this looks nice now. Okay.
So yeah, essentially here it is. So just to say, that just create first your mood, and then you put your fog, and you start, changing the values until you like it, and there you go, night and day. Yeah, the fog is really important for that. Other tips and tricks that I do, when I create my scenes or some cinematics, the first thing is a pool stream, when it pops up here. every time. So in the console command, I just write cool stream, and I usually put 0. Like that, it gets all the resources that I have, so that nothing will pop up there. And then the sharpening tool, that's a great feature.
Mm.
I use a lot sharp, but not too much. Too much sharper, around 2, because more than 2, it's gonna look like.
Oh, you set it to 2. It's funny. Like I tend to turn it off entirely because I don't. When I'm rendering out, I don't like having my like sharpening baked into my renders. So 90% of the time I turn it off, and I'll add it again in post later. But I don't want like that sharpening to be baked into the render. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I use it a lot. I use 2, and then I just render it like with I usually render with no render queue because sometimes I have issues with that. Yeah. So I use the normal one, and usually when I create, a high screenshot resolution, I just go here, high resolution screenshot.
Yeah.
I put this around 2. Depends. It depends because it always crashes. Sometimes depends. This time I have 4K monitor. So if I do it times 2, it's almost like a 7K, 6K. So yeah, just be aware of that.
Yeah.
But it's a good tool just to get.
Yeah, so that's a good old tool there. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like back like UDK or like Unreal Engine 3 or something. It was long. It's very, very old.
Oh yeah. And there's a lot of crashes too. Another great feature. Yeah. Another great feature is the local exposure that you put. Yeah, this is a great feature to enhance a little bit the scene. In here you have detail strength and contrast scale. In here, just settle, because if you blow it up, it just look awful. Just something settle like 1.1, and in contrast scale, just for the exposure, just to make it look better. Yeah, but as you see, the fog is really important in the scene. So yeah, atmospheric fog is really good. Yeah, for now that's it. Show these.
I love that. The number one tip is fog.
Fog. Yeah,
Put
that's
fog
the
in
number
it.
one tip. Yep, that's it.
No, for sure. Actually, Tina, I've got a question for you. It would be kind of cool to go through over some of the rules, like to kind of explain to to the people who are thinking of entering the contest to kind of know, hey, what can you do? What can you not do? Like, what are some of the limitations? Because if I remember correctly, we're actually not allowed to do any kind of editing in post, right?
Correct. Yeah, you can use post-process volumes in the scene itself, but there can't be any outside editing afterwards. So the video that you take has to be whatever you see directly in Engine.
Okay. Are people allowed to use Movie Render Queue to render things out? Or does it have to be like an OBS screen recording kind of thing?
I think we're leaning more towards make sure that it's kind of just a screen record so we can see as close to what's in the engine as possible. Yeah.
Sure. Got it.
Great question.
That's good to know.
Yes, it is for sure. And if there's any other rule clarifications in the chat that anybody would like to know, please feel free to put those questions in there as well, and I'll see if I can get to some of those too. We do have something that we need to talk about. It's of utmost importance. I need both of you to take this incredibly seriously, okay? Pasquale, what is your dog's name? The people need to know.
Oh. So he's a Jack Russell, and his name is Jack. That's what I named him. Oh, look, there he is. Hi, Jack.
The fourth and very important addition to this live stream is Jack. So just so everyone knows,
There he is.
he is officially also a guest.
Great.
Started the show right there.
Awesome. Well, Will, I'd also love to see what you brought for us. But first, before we do
yeah,
that,
sure.
it seems like you're sounding a bit like you're underwater. So
I sound like I'm underwater?
sure. Yeah, that's what it sounds like from chat, apparently.
Okay. Let me see.
But in the meantime, while we figure out our What we didn't tell you is this was an additional part of the challenge, is the underwater challenge
The
bonus.
underwater
Okay.
challenge.
This is included. But yeah, absolutely. So that was a great question about some of the rules. And I forgot to mention, there is a full document as well that you all can reference if this is something that you're interested in doing. We can drop the link for it in the chat. That has all of the details for the challenge itself. If there's anything that you need clarified or would like some more information on, feel free, like I said, to either post that in the chat here, or you can also post it in the comments under that forum post. And we're more than happy to get back to you on that as well. But yeah, in the meantime, I have some questions for you, Pasquale, if you're good with that.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously those scenes that you showed are incredible. I mean, when you first pulled up the very first scene that you showed, I thought you were showing us a render for a second, like just a photo of the editor. I didn't realize we were actually in Unreal already. So for these scenes that you set up, and to make sure that you get the right tone, the right feeling that you're going for, what is the initial process for that? Do you do any thumbnails? Do you find reference for it? What's your process?
So like, yeah, for Elden Ring, I just got some reference for the game, just to see how the mood is. Other than that, I just all in my head.
Yeah, just
So,
play with it.
yeah.
Make it
Yeah, just
till
play
it
with
feels right.
Yeah, perfect. It's just an artistic choice, and when you say, okay, this is good, then I stop. But usually I use reference images, depends on what it is. Like the Silent Hill one, I use reference on the night one, just to see how the mood was. The day one, I just did it by eye, because there's no date in Silent Hill. So.
I admire that, honestly, because I feel like I have a too much gene where I don't know where to stop. I will continue and continue and continue and never stop. So.
Yep.
Is the audio
William's
better
back.
now?
Yep, I think it's better.
Cool. Awesome.
Yep.
I'm not sure what happened there. I think it just switched microphones using like my camera's microphone for some reason. So anyway, it's back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'd love to. Yeah, I would love to dive into some of the stuff that you've brought as well.
Yeah, sure. So I'm ready to go. Got my scene open here. And all right. So here I'm using UE5 for this shot. So this is the shot that I made for a sponsored video for Capturing Reality back in December. So I had to make a video demonstrating how to, basically use photogrammetry to capture. Essentially, in this case, it was a 300 or 400-year-old cabin here in Norway, not far from where I live, and I wanted to use photogrammetry to capture it, scan it, bring it to reality capture, generate a 3D model from it, get the textures from that as well, and then get that into UE5. And this entire project was entirely possible thanks to UE5, primarily thanks to Nanite, because I didn't need to worry about basically retopology and spending a lot of time getting the really getting the model to game ready, so to speak. I didn't have to worry about polycounts at all. I didn't even need to worry about texture resolution. So I just went completely nuts on detail and just I think I took in order, for those of you unfamiliar with photogrammetry, it's the process of, it's basically megascans, like your own homemade megascans. It's a process of taking a series of images of any object in real life and aligning those images in photogrammetry software. In this case, I was using reality capture. And from there, it'll spit out a 3D image based on all your photos. And on top of that, you get all of the textures for free. So it's kind of a magical process for, really capturing any kind of object in real life. So I figured like this old cabin, like I said, it was built in the 1700s, so it's like over 300 years old, and looks absolutely awesome, has a lot of character. And if I had to build this from scratch, like modeling, each log and sculpting it in ZBrush and texturing it, like it would take forever to get like this kind of, detail basically. So now it's a little bit lower. I had to optimize it a tiny little bit. I reduced it, but for the most part, like there's just so much Like every single log is different. And so if I were to sculpt that in ZBrush, where every single one of these logs is its own, well, hero log, so to speak, I would never see the end of it. It would just take forever. Now, of course, I could have gotten around with, tileable textures and stuff, but it wouldn't have the same amount of personality. And I kind of like the historical aspect of it as well. Like, I really like the idea of just kind of immortalizing old structures. So it was a really fun project to get into. And like I said, it was a sponsored video, and so it was, it was a job literally. So I'm very fortunate to have the pleasure to do work that I genuinely enjoy and I get up and I'm excited to do. So bringing this into UE5 was awesome because going to the nanite visualization here, it's a pretty dense model. It's, and I didn't even need to worry about that. I think this is a 4 million triangle mesh, and I just write it right in. Now, I think the original mesh from the actual 3D scan was something along the lines of 40 or 50 million triangles, but that's usually overkill. And plus, it would take... Unreal can handle it. That's not a problem. I tested it out, and it works. The problem is when you start bringing in like a 20, 30, 40, 50 million triangle mesh, the problem is disk space. It takes up 100 gigabytes of space on your drive. And then on top of that, importing it into the engine takes forever. Like, I'm talking like literal hours. So that wasn't really something I was excited about. And honestly, you get a kind of diminishing returns after a certain point. Like, I don't need 50 million triangles worth of detail on this mesh. So the normal map can kind of take care of most of that detail for me. And that's another benefit of reality capture, is that when you're doing photogrammetry, you kind of get the normal map for free as well. So it was kind of a win-win. So I got the normal map for the really, really high-res detail that I needed, and the mesh could just be about as detailed as I needed it to be, and really just focus on the silhouette more than anything else. So yeah, this was a really fun project, and this is kind of more of this shot is definitely intended to be more for cinematic purposes, so I made a very a short and sweet shot out of it. This is not intended to be like a playable, interactive level at all. I'm just gonna make this loop right there. Right, so like I said, it's not meant to be an interactive level. It's more designed to be like, hey, this is gonna look good from this angle and this angle only. Which, this is kind of like, it's no secret, that's kind of been my thing. Like, ever since I left the games industry and started working in film, that's kind of that's what we do in VFX. It's like we get the cameras from the directors, from the client, and we make that specific shot look good. Everything that's outside of the framing of this shot looks like total garbage. Like, if I get out of the shot here and I turn the camera, actually, hang on, I'm gonna go like this, and if I just turn the camera, I have nothing. There is nothing there. There's no anything. It just looks like hot garbage. Literally in every direction that's not wherever this camera is. And what's really funny is that even between the cabin and the camera, there's nothing there. It just, I don't waste time on anything that is, not visible to the camera. So that's why it's done like this. So yeah, so it really just seen it all. I made the building itself, and the rest is mainly Megascans, and I got a tree pack from, I believe, it's on the marketplace, and it's from the Real Biomes pack. So I think it's called the, what's it called? Scott's Pine Real Biomes pack. And so this is actually, it's funny because I found these trees on the marketplace, and they were perfect. They were exactly what I needed, because these trees match exactly the kind of tree that I have in my backyard here in Norway. And funny enough, this pack was made by a Norwegian guy, so it makes all the sense. So it was kind of, it was a win-win. Really happy with these trees. And lighting, and that's it. It's these trees, Megascans assets, the building that I made myself, and the lighting. The mountains were made by me as well. I used Gaia to make the mountains. So Gaia is a sort of free landscape generation software, so you can really quickly and easily make any kind of mountains that you want. It's very similar to World Creator, very similar to World Machine, and I think the creators of Gaia used to make a plugin for World Machine. So World Machine is much older. I think everyone in the industry knows what World Machine is at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Gaia is absolutely awesome to work with, and it really it just gets something there to kind of break the silhouette up and amount in the background here. And lighting wise, sort of like Pasquale, I'm using a plugin as well. So I'm using the Ultra Dynamic Sky plugin, which is arguably one of my, I think it is my favorite lighting plugin out there. It just makes getting really nice looking clouds much easier. It's a drag and drop system. You just put it in there and cool, it just looks good out of the box. Combining that with Lumen makes your life a whole lot easier. Because now we get like indirect lighting almost for free, which is fantastic. And so lighting nowadays is easier than it ever had been in Unreal. Like coming from the old Unreal Engine 3 days, it's come a very long way. Like I remember, I mean, I do not miss baked lighting. I know it's still kind of a thing, especially for people working in architecture and stuff, where you need like the absolute best quality and the best performance. And there really is no substitute for that. If you need both high quality and high performance, baked lighting is still the way to go. But nobody likes authoring light map UVs. Like that is just not fun at all.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing. Like I would rather just like smash my face into a wall than have to do that all over again. So like I'm really happy that we have more like real time and more dynamic based lighting approaches now. But at the same time, like baked lighting has gotten a lot easier as well thanks to GPU light mask. But this scene is completely dynamic. We're not using any baked lighting here. So personally, I liked the more dynamic approach, kind of like what Pasquale does, because what you see is what you get. There's no surprises. It just works. It's a lot easier to art direct, at least in my experience. But I'm not bashing on baked lighting. It has its place, and when done correctly, like it looks phenomenal. But it like I said, it's a little bit trickier, a little bit more time consuming, a bit more tedious to art direct, and ain't nobody got time for that. So that's why Lumen makes a whole lot of sense now. But yeah, and I think for those who are kind of attempting to do the challenge, there's nothing wrong with, set dressing and doing layout for a specific shot. Like that is okay. Like you don't need to make a fully playable, fully interactive level. As long as the lighting is good, I think to me that's what matters most. And it's also you can save all. What? Go ahead. Sorry, Pasquale.
No. I was saying lighting composition. Yeah, those are important.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. It's so much easier to when you have a specific shot. When you set up your camera early on in your project, it allows you to spend more time focusing on the important aspects of things. It allows you to focus more on only what you're seeing. You don't need, because what's going to happen otherwise? If you don't have a camera set up early on, you're going to start, spending too much time like, oh, I want to, start adding some more rocks and, some more snow over here and detailing areas that are largely not going to be visible to the camera. And then, you put your shot and you're like, oh, I just spent, 10 hours set dressing something that's not even visible. So that's why I think it's really important to, place your camera early. At least you can change it as you go, of course, but at least have a rough camera path laid out early on. Even if it's just like a slow pan or something, or kind of a dolly shot, that's okay. Sometimes less is more. And, that allows you to spend more time on the art of things and less on the, I need to work on my pebble placing, like on the other, 2 kilometers away or something. So, I much prefer like the more cinematic approach, which is just dressing up your shot for the shot and nothing else. And it just, you spend more time on the art side of things. But yeah, so this shot, it was pretty simple. Like actually doing this shot here was not, I think I put it all together in a few hours. Just because what took a lot of time was getting, going out on location, taking all the photos, generating the 3D scan of the building, lighting, I spent more time on the composition and making sure things are framed correctly rather than actually making the environment, because that's super important. And composition, unfortunately, there's no magical thing that just works in all situations. Composition is kind of one of those things that comes with years of practice, is years of just Years of taking photos. If you want to be a good 3D artist, I have always recommended people to just pick up a camera and go take pictures, because the more pictures you take, the more photos that you look at online, whether it's on Instagram, social media, whatever. Try and find some of your favorite photographers, because you're going to start building an eye subconsciously for what looks good and what doesn't look good. And, I'm not tooting my own horn here. I'm not saying like, oh, this is the best composition you could ever come up with. That's not what I mean. But you're definitely going to start building an idea of what, subconsciously, you're going to know what looks right, even though you don't really know why specifically. You might not be able to explain why, but you're going to know why. And a general good rule of thumb is to, where is it? Whoops, not that. Didn't mean to do that. Is the rule of thirds. And that should kind of go without saying. But the rule of thirds is when you put a grid on like this, technically your subject should fall within, ideally, within one of the three intersections here. So you'll see we got three. I was trying to split up into three sections, right? So we got 2 lines here and 2 lines here. In theory, the kind of magical old golden rule is to have your subject line up with one of these intersections. So whether it's like that or like this or something, like that's typically the age-old rule. So that's a good starting point. In this case, I opted for a more center composition, just because the cabin here was the defining feature. That was the whole point of the video that I made, because I was showcasing how to make that building in 3D. So that's why I opted for a more center composition. And rules are meant to be broken, so you don't absolutely, if you read some article online about what the best composition rules are, they're just rules of thumb. So you don't need to abide by those rules like to the letter. It's more of a, like I said, a rule of thumb, more of a guideline, and feel free to break those rules as much as you see fit, as long as it looks good. And unfortunately, what looks good is very subjective. And so what I think looks good might look terrible to Pasquale or everyone else.
No,
So
that looks good.
it's no, I mean not this specifically, but I've seen lots of there's definitely been time where I was pretty proud of a shot or a photo that I took, and
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to please everyone, right? So
It's personal.
as long as
Yeah,
you're happy with it, I think as
Mhm.
long as you're happy with it, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
And lighting wise, there's not much to it. It's really just ultra dynamic sky, so UDS for short, and that's pretty much it. Lumen makes this really, really easy. So I could hide this entirely, and I think I have another skylight in here. Yeah, so I also had, there we go, I'm gonna hide this. And so if I wanted to start over from scratch, I probably could using the environment light mixer, which I have a video about. Oh wait, I would probably have to start from scratch here. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna delete my lights entirely actually, and kind of relight it from scratch, just to show you that, you really can redo lighting very quickly, very easily. Let me see, I'm gonna select my skylight here, delete that too. There we go. So with the environment light mixer, if you go to the Windows tab up here, go to ENV Light Mixer, you can just kind of create all of these tabs here, and it'll create a lighting system for you, like in 2 seconds. So create skylight, atmospheric light 0, sky atmosphere, volumetric fog, and height fog. And now if I use Control L to move my sun around, you'll see right away we got a decent lighting setup in our scene. So of course it doesn't look exactly the same. There's a little bit of art direction that I had done, but for the most part, now I can select my directional light and just play around with the indirect lighting intensity. Maybe set it to 2 or something. 3, 2, bump that up. And yeah. Now of course, like I had set up my material for the lighting to work well for that shot, but using the environment light mixer gives you a pretty darn good starting point to get off the ground. And yeah, I like it. Have you used UDS, Pasquale?
No, I usually use sun and sky moving most of the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So directional light. That's what I like.
And sometimes
sometimes
HDR. Sometimes HDR.
Okay,
HDR plugin.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you mean the HDRI backdrop?
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that's a good one too. I found it behaved a little bit oddly with Lumen sometimes,
Yeah,
but yeah,
sometimes.
it but yeah, that's usually what I do. And so of course, like the clouds made a big difference earlier using Ultra Dynamic Sky.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with Lumen, it just kind of makes everything pretty easy. Um, and yeah, I might go ahead back here, go back to my shot, my skylight, and maybe change the light to be a little bit more bluish. Oh, that's why. That's why it was looking a bit weird. There we go. I always forget to turn on real-time capture in my skylight. Definitely helps a little bit as well. But yeah, so then I'll add a little bit of a blue tint in here, and yeah, it's a decent starting point. So, of course, I had spent a bit of time finessing the lighting earlier, but it should get you pretty closely, in just very few clicks. So I'm a big fan of the Environment Light Mixer. It gets you started real fast. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for me on this side. So
Fantastic.
thank you.
I really love the fact that you just built lighting from scratch right there and just, what was that? I think 4 minutes. So,
Yeah, I mean, of course, it doesn't look quite as good as before, but I just wanted to show that you can get started real fast. There's no magical settings or magical button. It comes down to having a good eye for what looks right, and that only comes with practice. And that comes from like having looked at photos for so long and understanding how light actually works in real life. And photography has been a big passion of mine for at least like 12 years or something now. It started off as just a hobby because I was living in a big city and moved from the small town to a big city. I was bored, bought a camera, and it was just more of a hobby more than anything else. But in hindsight, it was probably the best career move I've ever done, because it allows you to practice your job. It allows you to do something sort of relevant to 3D, but but still being different. It gets you out of your office. It gets you outside. It gets you kind of training your eyes subconsciously. So you're working without actually working, which is what I really like about it. And so, and photography, it's all about light. And so it kind of goes hand in hand with being a 3D artist, being a lighter, because lighting, I think, as Pasquale, you are very well aware, lighting is very underrated in general. I think a lot of people don't quite take it
You don't
seriously
know
because
how important it is, yeah. Because you could have your assets great, great, and everything looks great, models are great, but if there's not, the lighting correct, that scene could become like a dull or really not good. It's just an artistic.
I mean, I've seen like amazing 3D models that have been completely let down by bad lighting.
Yeah.
And even though it was a great model, great texturing, but like the light just looked like crap and it was really holding that model back. But I've seen the opposite happen too, where you've had like a kind of a mediocre 3D model, but I'm like, oh, that looks photoreal. Like it and when you see like just a regular like viewport of the model, you're like, oh, that's it? Like it's I cannot stress enough how important lighting is. Yeah.
Lighting's really
So
important.
it'll make or break a shot, no matter how. So don't put like hours and weeks of work into a model and then just hold it, let it down with bad lighting. So don't take it for granted. It's really important.
It is. Awesome.
absolutely. And as you just showed, it's not necessarily super time consuming or difficult to make lighting that is worthy of that asset or that scene. It just takes a little bit of intention, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's lots of finessing, and there's no hard and fast rule for lights. I mean, there's no magical settings. I don't have like a specific value that I use in all my scenes. It's a lot of like bumping a little bit of values. It's more about understanding like the relationship between your highlights and your shadows for the most part. Like that's really what it boils down to. It's knowing where to add that extra little rim light, just here, just a little bit, and it knowing how far to push it to keep it believable. Because good lighting it's not necessarily always about being like physically accurate either, but anyone who's seen how cinematographers light on a film set, it is far from being like physically accurate or like realistic lighting. It's like they put so many huge soft boxes and fill lights and rim lights all over the place. The whole thing is just a huge hack. So,
the
and it's the same thing
characters.
with lighting. Like, we're making a shot here, so don't be afraid of putting an extra little rect light or something behind to get a little rim light there. Like, that's okay. Like, you're allowed. It's not cheating. So,
Yeah, just not too much fill lights because or else you just ruin the scene. I see people put fill lights everywhere and the scene just gets dull and shadows go
less is
crazy.
more.
Yeah,
Less is
perfect.
definitely more. Where like you kind of want to keep it to a minimum, add it where it's
Mhm.
necessary, but don't. I mean, I've seen shots where a student of mine would put in like 20 plus lights in a shot. I'm like, whoa, like this is very not manageable, and
No.
it makes it really hard because at some point you don't really know where the weird light is coming. You're like, I know it looks wrong, but I don't know why. And then you kind of open up the outliner and you see there's like 20 plus point lights, and you're like, oh, that's
Yeah,
why.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then go through the wonderful process of turning each one on and off individually,
Mhm.
maybe group some of them up and turn those off.
I mean, so many times, though, like anyone working in production and knows that sometimes you have to fill in for someone who's sick, or someone the dad and has to go pick up his kid at kindergarten. So I've had to pick up some shots from other lighters, and you see the outline, and you're like, oh my lord, what is
What
happening?
happened here?
And so often, like, I'll just select all the lights and just delete them, because it's faster to start off from scratch than it is to try and figure out
Yeah.
what they were doing. And so, of course, like I up version, I kind of save a backup, but sometimes it is absolutely faster to just start over because
Then each
placing
of
lights
us,
is not time consuming.
yeah. Then each of us has a vision of lighting. Like each of us, it's like art, artistic choice, so, like a
Yeah,
painting.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, and that's what I mean
absolutely.
by like art is very subjective. So like what
Hmm.
you might think looks amazing, maybe I think like, oh, that's kind of bad, and vice versa. Like there's no hard fast rule. It's all kind of subjective. It all kind of depends on who your target audience is. It depends on your client, and sometimes your client has a really bad eye, and you have to deal with that. So they're paying the paycheck. So you're like, okay, well, this is my life now. So, but yeah,
See, this is why you two are here as judges, so that I can be the bad client with the bad eye, and you two can correct me. Be like, wait, no, no, no.
uh,
Yeah,
well, that's
excited to
going.
see what we're
Go
gonna
ahead,
see.
sorry.
No, I'm excited to see what we're gonna see on this
Yeah.
challenge. Exciting.
Likewise. I've seen, I mean, just like the 90 days challenge that we just saw, what
Hmm.
did it drop last week, I think? It was just,
Yeah.
like, it really gave me a serious case of FOMO because I'm like, oh, I want to do that too. That looks fun. I don't have time to do that. So, yeah, we had some really good lighting examples in that 90 days challenge. That was absolutely awesome. So I actually
Yeah.
suggest anyone thinking of taking this challenge, the Better Light Than Never challenge. I definitely recommend you check out the 90-day challenge by Quixel because that was just phenomenal work.
Yeah.
If that doesn't give you inspiration, I don't know what will.
That gives a like pretty awesome inspiration there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a scene with nanites if we want to see it. It's a space
Yeah.
scene that I created. Yeah, so this is using all nanite RTX hardware and Lumen. Obviously, everything is all real time. Yeah, let's play. Let's see. Same thing, character created with C3 and rigged with ALS4. But yeah, we could totally see that's nanite, the close-ups here from these rocks. It's amazing how it performs even well, nanite.
It's insane. Like Nanite
Yeah,
is such a game changer. Like Lumen was great,
yeah,
but I think Nanite was the one I was most excited about.
yeah, yeah,
Especially
totally.
for anyone who wants to jump into photogrammetry, because now
Yeah,
you can just scan real objects and just throw them in the engine, and no retopology, no remeshing, no nothing. It just works.
nothing. It just works there and high poly meshes with 8K
Hmm.
textures.
It's basically cheating.
Yeah, essentially. But yeah, this is the
I love the
nanite version.
I love the
And the
mood in this shot.
space
This looks really good.
things. And everything's like Quixel Mega scans. So all these are Quixel Mega scans. All these. space fog. And some of them I tweak them with the color, so albedo color just to match the environment. Yeah. So I'll show you another scene that's using nanite, and let's see. Yeah, here it is. This is using nanite, and got a little bit inspired of The Last of Us 2 on this one.
Honestly, truly incredible. And I I feel like you're right as well with what you were saying before of just throwing some fog because it really
Okay.
does. It makes such a difference in mood.
Yeah. So this is with the fog off. Let's see. Yeah. And this
Still
is with the fog
incredible, of course.
off. Yeah.
Here I thought you were going to be like, oh, without the fog, and then, you know, just
Yeah.
notably worse, but it's still incredible.
Thanks. Cool. Yeah. That's it for me. Is there any
Just
questions?
amazing. There's a ton of questions actually,
Oh,
but
boy.
I wanted to make sure I want to make sure we could show off all the projects that both of you brought as well, because I think it's good
Yeah.
to get inspiration, and also while you're walking through them, they may answer some of the questions that come up in chat as well. So don't be afraid to still pull up stuff. I'm more than happy to show that. But while we're on the topic of the fog, there is one question about volumetrics, and if both of you feel that volumetrics are important to a scene overall, and if so, why? And are they necessary, would you say?
I would say for exteriors, yes. Volumetric fog just gives that mood that you try to create, and it gives even the nice God rays that you could see coming through the fog.
Yeah.
But yeah, volumetric fog. Let's see with on and off what happens. So yeah, this is without volumetric fog. Let's see. There it is. We have only normal fog, and this is with the volumetric fog, so you can see a totally difference in the God rays even here.
Yeah. I mean, I would consider the same for interiors as well, because sometimes when you're doing interior shots and you want to get those light shafts coming in through the window,
Oh yeah,
you
that's
absolutely
yeah.
you absolutely need volumetric fog for that. There's kind of no way around.
Yeah.
You can fake it with, I mean, I definitely have faked it with like actual cards or a cone with an emissive texture on it. But yeah, it just volumetric fog is fantastic. Love it. And it works a whole lot better with Lumen now too, because previously in UE4 we had that limitation where when the moment you use ray traced lighting or ray traced shadows, the volumetric fog kind of broke and it kind of went everywhere. You didn't have that directionality anymore. Which there was a fix in 426, and then in 427 that fix kind of broke, which is the bummer. But with Lumen now, it's not a problem anymore because Lumen does actually shadow volumetric fog correctly. Slightly lower resolution, but I think through a console variable, I'm sure we can kind of bump up that volumetric fog voxel resolution, I suppose, a little bit better. So yeah, no, I think it's a very easy question to answer. Is yes, absolutely worth it. You don't have to use it, of course. I think you have to use it in the context of the shot. Does it make sense in the context of the shot? If it does, then yeah, go for it. There's no real reason not to use it. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for those little tips, honestly. I'm also writing off to the side here, just for myself, some little tips and tricks that I'm getting from this stream. So let me just add a couple more on here real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, again, I'm defaulting back to fangirling because it's just so much fun. I agree with what you were saying about lighting being the thing that makes or breaks any project in particular, which is part of why I'm so excited about this challenge, because arguably the scene itself, the environment, whatever it is that you choose to create isn't what matters. It's how you light it. How do you make it feel? What do you end up conveying with whatever it is that you build? And I think these are great examples of showing that.
Just tell us a story on what you're trying to create. With the lighting, you could tell a story, the mood and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, like it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go for what's realistic, but rather the impression of realism is definitely more important. So whatever works within the context of your shot, or film or environment or whatever, don't be afraid of cheating it a little bit. You don't need to have only a directional light and a skylight, that's like the natural light. There can be no other light. Don't be afraid. You can fake it. You can add a few other little lights in there with you can also increase the volumetric scattering intensity of a specific light to have it emit a bit more of a glow around as well. There's so many little hacks and tricks you can do to kind of enhance a shot. So yeah, I do have a quick shot here open on my screen if you want to check it out. There's a little bit of a shot I'm working on my personal project right now. But what's cool is that I have a little light here. You'll see just a bit of, it's kind of emitting a bit of a soft glow here. And, if I go to this camera here and I hide this light, its only purpose, it's not even casting light on my character here, but it's just adding a bit of a glow from behind, which is just suggesting some kind of, I don't know, maybe there's lava or a fire behind them or something. Or if I wanted to increase the volumetric scattering intensity again, I can set it to 10,000. Of course, over the top, but you get the idea. So if I wanted to do 5,000, kind of tone it back down, 1,000 maybe. And yeah, so it's just kind of there just to enhance it a little bit. And again, this is volumetric fog right here. So volumetric fog can be used in a multitude of ways, lots of clever ways to do that. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show. It's there's lots of really clever ways to use all of the tools in Unreal, whether it's volumetric fog or whether it's a skylight or whether it's, I don't know, rect lights or whatever. You'll see here I actually have, it kind of goes against what I was saying earlier where less is more, and now I have a bazillion rect lights. I'm immediately contradicting myself, so I'm not making myself look good, very good here. But fact remains, each one of these lights kind of serves a bit of a purpose. So I'll have this light here, which is, just that bit of volumetric glow. I've got just a little bit of a fill here. I've got, another bit of a fill there as well. And, just a couple different fills, because it's sometimes I'm essentially replacing an HDRI. Normally all of these fills would be taken care of by an HDRI, but in this case, an HDRI is sometimes hard to control, and how it is, Pasquale, right? A skylight, sometimes it's just a bit too intense, and it's really hard to fine tune and localize it. So that's why I prefer to have sometimes, just kind of have a whole bunch of little tiny small lights. Yeah, exactly. And so it just kind of fills it up. Because if I were to hide all my rec lights here, you'll see it gets very black, and I don't want that. And especially with metallic objects, sometimes light kind of behaves a little bit differently than with dielectric materials. So sometimes just adding that little bit of fill in there makes a big difference. So yeah. That's pretty much what I wanted to show there. You can use lights in lots of creative ways, and nothing about this here is physically accurate, in no way. So it's all just a hack, which is kind of a more of a filmmaker approach, a cinematographer approach. For anyone who's ever worked on a film set with a gaffer or a lighting technician, nothing about film sets is physically accurate. It's just kind of lights are kind of all over the place, and yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was also another great example of, because obviously you had just the one central focus asset of that scene. And so it's not like it was particularly busy. There wasn't a gigantic, huge environment with a billion trees and everything. It was one object that's the center focus, but is still lit masterfully and makes a huge impact.
Yeah. It's still a work in progress. I'm still working on a texturing and everything on that shot. I just kind of wanted to show it was kind of a good example of how to use light creatively and not necessarily realistically. Because if I wanted to go like a purely realistic approach, she would just be black because it's the middle of the night and there's no light, and there's no artificial lighting there. So sometimes you kind of have to enhance it in a way to make it to give the what's the word? There's a specific word for it. It's the suspension of disbelief. So you just need to kind of push it to a point where it's still believable without being like obviously over the top. So
Right. Yeah.
So that depends
as long
on the
as you still
subject.
feel
On the subject. Yeah.
exactly. So
Depends on the subject.
so yeah. Are you guys hoping for
Absolutely.
the challenge? Are you hoping to see more like environment work or more character work, or does it not matter? Is that like totally up for interpretation?
It is totally up for interpretation. There's a lot of things that are available with this challenge. So if you want to make your own 3D assets, you're more than welcome to do so. I would never be like, no, you cannot make your own stuff. How dare you? So you can use anything that's in Quixel. You can use Megascans. You can make your own assets or anything that's on the marketplace. It's entirely up to you. If you want to focus in on characters, you want to focus in on an environment, a small room, a huge landscape, it is whatever is to your heart's content, as long as you make it fit within how you interpret the theme.
Right. That's awesome. I love it. I think it's nice to have
Yes.
a lighting focused challenge for a change, because I mean, there's no shortage of like character art challenges. There's no shortage of like I don't know, like environment art challenges and whatnot. So having a very lighting focused challenge is refreshing.
Right.
I don't think we've had many of those, to be honest. Kind of puts
Yeah.
That's really
lighters
great.
on the stage for a change.
Yeah.
The underappreciated.
So they focus on the lighting, the composition, and the mood.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, and this will be the first of many of a series of technical challenges that we're going to specifically
Nice.
go through. So everybody keep your eye out for those as well, because there's lots of small things that I agree. I think maybe we either take for granted or we just don't know that much about. That's good to be able to explore a little bit, learn more about, and it can really make a difference in somebody's project.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
with
I think it's,
that- We have so many questions. So if both of you
Okay.
are open to it, I would love to dive into
Absolutely.
some of these.
Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
The way we want to do this is entirely up to you. I think I'm just going to read some of them. And if either one of you wants to take the question, or both, especially if either of you have differing answers on them, let's do it. Let's make this as conversational as we can. Don't feel afraid to take the spotlight from me if I'm talking too much. Things like that.
All good.
So let's go ahead and start just at the beginning. What would you say is the best way to start conceptualizing a new scene or project, especially something with a theme like the challenge?
Ooh, good question.
Mhm.
You want to take this one, Pasquale?
I would go with, depends on the mood that they want to create. I would go with photography. Just look at many photography. If you want to go landscape, so just look as many landscape possible. Yeah, just pictures, real pictures. To go to see how
I think
the lighting
a great
reacts.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done. My
No,
bad.
no, no, go. I'm done.
Okay, cool. I mean, I think like you said, I think it's great to find inspiration in real life. Photography is a great one. So like, look at websites. Go look on Instagram. Like any kind of like travel Instagram page will have so many amazing shots that can just really give you good ideas. 500px is a good website as well. The 500px is a
Yeah.
photographer website where they really focus. People just post amazing photographs. And so that's another great place. Just find great references that way. Go look at ArtStation. I mean, ArtStation's kind of a double-edged sword because it's both inspiring and also the most depressing place in the world. Because like, I'm immediately humbled the moment I see anything on ArtStation. I'm like, I'm a terrible art. I'm just gonna uninstall everything on my computer now and go become an electrician now. So take ArtStation with a grain of salt. But often, like, I wish I could say that I have this vision in my head and I can just recreate it on the screen, and that's so far from the truth. Often I'll just browse the Megascans library. I'm like, oh, that's cool, and I download them. I just start kit bashing, just throwing stuff together, and eventually something's gonna stick, and you'll be like, oh, that's cool, and you kind of start. It's like playing Lego, basically. You have a whole sandbox of Lego, and just start putting stuff together. And eventually, you're gonna get an idea. It's just gonna come, and so I would say, start with that. sometimes starting off with nothing is the best way to get started. So, like I said, I really wish I could say I had this masterpiece in my mind and I just create it, but that's like I'm terrible at that. I can't. No. If you saw like the first initial stages of every project I've ever worked on, I would immediately lose all reputation. It's, yeah.
So we're not going to get any speed builds from you, is what you're saying.
I mean, it's fun sometimes for sure, but yeah, I think starting off is the hardest part of the process. Like we all get that white blank page syndrome, and we don't really know what there to start, and we only see like the amazing stuff on ArtStation at any time, right? And so we see that, and then we see this blank, flat gray plane in Unreal, like the default level, and you're like, well, there you go. So it's hard to get started. So just throw stuff out there. Get the Make It Scans in there and just get started. That's the easiest way to get going.
Mm-hmm. I see Jack, our supervisor for this stream, is also very. Yeah, he's excited too.
Yeah.
So kind of a follow-up question onto that. So obviously we've talked now a little bit about concepting out the idea and getting started there. Would you recommend starting to set up the lights of your scene before or after the scene is mostly complete?
I would say right away. Yeah.
I usually like setting up like at least something using the environment light mixer,
Yeah.
like I just showed you earlier. Just kind of get a base lighting system in there, a base sky system in there, and
to
then
see
work from
it.
there. I just like to have something so I can see what I'm doing. I don't work in unlit mode, for example. So it's nice to
Yeah.
have just like a directional light, a sky in there, and
Basic.
iterate from there.
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
basic and start from there.
Yeah, and then once
Yeah.
you have something laid out, an actual environment made, once you kind of see how things are going, then you can start like actually doing the proper lighting. Like go for the mood you're going for. If you're going for a nighttime shot, then lower the sun in the sky, make it more bluish, make it more moon-like, add some fog. You can kind of start art directing it a little bit later, but at least having that initial baseline sky system in the engine, that's usually how I get started.
Yeah.
Awesome. These next questions I'm going to give you two because they kind of go hand in hand. But the first is, when it comes to the post-process volume, do you have any particular go-tos in post-process that you recommend people either use or look into more? And with that in mind, would you say that people should be, when they're lighting their scene, should they focus more on the actual lighting parameters themselves, or thinking more about the post-processing parameters that they can do later to put some of that detail in?
Well, yeah,
Great question.
post-process, I usually start with the basic post-process, where you put the EV and min and max to 1 for now, and then all the rest after. So color grading and temperature and shadows, pixels, whatever, after. Set up your scene, and then after. I mean, that's my approach, and it's totally
Yeah.
optional.
For sure. Kind of the same thing. The first thing I always do when I create a post-process volume is I set it to unbound first thing, and then I turn off auto exposure. That's just what I do, because I hate auto exposure. It's the worst. I don't want my exposure changing all over the place based on what I'm looking at. It really infuriates me to like irrationally. And just, like, so I turn it off right away. That's the first thing I do. And then from there, then I think it kind of depends on the shot. I don't think I have like any specific go-to settings apart from that. But yeah, I mean, post-processing volume is very powerful. You can do so much with that. And I do want to give a shout out to Alec Tucker, which I have. I'm sharing my screen now. If you want to say that. So I want to give a shout out to Alec Tucker on ArtStation. He's made amazing blog posts on post-processing in Unreal, and it's absolutely amazing. Like, if you just read both of these blog posts, he shows you how to get like really nice vignetting, really amazing effects like film grain, high quality film grain, basically all the things I do in post in DaVinci Resolve or something. He shows you how to do that directly in the engine. So it's kind of a great little hack to know about, because you can do exactly what I'm doing in post, but in the post-process volume instead. So he showed you how to do all these complex materials. So shout out to Alec. He's actually an Epic employee, I think, last I checked. Yeah, awesome guy, great artist, definitely check that out. So maybe if I can send you guys the link and you can put it in the video description later for other people to watch it, because it's absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, more than happy to share that with our viewers here. We'll keep maybe we can nab the link for that and post it in chat as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great call out though. All right, there's a lot of questions about shadows as well. The main one that I'm seeing is people are wondering if you have any tips or tricks on how to get really good soft shadows. That seems to be what most people struggle with.
Ray trace shadows.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Ray trace shadows, or depends if you're like, if you use a lumen and the direct sunlight, then ray trace shadows just to the software.
And you can combine the two. You can have both lumen and ray trace shadows on a per light basis. So you can have 90% of all your lights in your scene will use lumen shadows, or I think it's virtual texture maps or virtual shadow maps. Yeah. And you can use one specific light and designate that to use ray trace shadows. Like especially on rect lights, you get much better shadow quality with ray trace shadows than with virtual shadow maps.
Mm-hmm.
Or use the path tracer, but I'm not sure if is that considered cheating. Are you allowed to use the path tracer for this challenge?
I'll get back to you on that one. I would think so, but anything that I can't answer or clarify.
Yeah, we'll just
anything that I can't answer or clarify. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Anything that I can't answer or clarify in the stream, make sure that you check the forum post afterwards, because there might be questions that we just didn't think about. So we'll make sure we go through and update anything in regards to all that, including the movie render as well, because jury's out of that. We'll give the full verdict on that after the stream is over.
Sounds
too.
good.
Awesome. There's a question here from a student as well. So they're a little bit newer to lighting, and it sounds like they're interested in getting into it kind of with this challenge as a kickoff and motivation for them to learn more about it. But they were wondering if, since they're completely new, they're a fresh start in both Unreal and with lighting, would you recommend that they focus on something that is an exterior scene or an interior scene while they're trying to learn the ropes?
I would go with an exterior, because the interior is a little bit more difficult to illuminate. Exterior, you can use sun and sky and do your mood, and I think it's way better on exterior than interior.
Yeah, they definitely both have their challenges. I think I have to agree with Pasquale here that going for an exterior might be a little bit easier, because interiors are kind of very dependent on having pristine, perfect indirect lighting, very good shadow detail. I think it requires you to have a better eye for what looks good and what doesn't. You're going to have to be able to nitpick whether that's a material issue, or that's a shadow issue, or that's a reflections issue, or there's so many more technical aspects to getting a clean interior render, and the exterior is a lot more forgiving, I think. So.
Awesome. That is a good piece of advice there, because I actually wasn't sure on that one myself. I think, but I agree. Now that you've mentioned it, I think an exterior would be maybe a little bit of an easier start.
Yep.
Right. How do you keep your highlights from blowing up?
Highlights by blowing up. It's all the exposure.
It's exposure to materials too. If your materials have the wrong roughness values or the wrong specular values, they will tend to catch highlights a little bit. They'll get too hot.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to tweak your materials a little bit to make them a bit rougher or something, or maybe tone down the specular value of it. 'Cause especially when people start playing with the spec values, that's one thing. I guess a better question, yeah, exactly. And for your skies blowing out, then that's probably an exposure issue. But at the same time, it depends on whether you're doing interiors or exteriors, because when you're doing an interior shot, you're exposing for the interior, and it's normal for your sky to be blown out, because when you take a photo with your phone, it's impossible to get both the interior and the outside in a window.
The same?
Both
No.
Yeah, I mean you can do it with using HDR photography, but that's another can of worms that we're not going to get into. So yeah. I think it's good to understand. I think you hit it on the head, Pasquale. It's really good to understand exposure and how that works.
Absolutely. There is a question as well for Lumen specifically. Do you have any suggestions for getting decent reflections with Lumen?
That's a good one. Lumen is tricky because Lumen doesn't have quite as good reflections as ray trace reflections. Like I still use
Yeah.
ray. It depends on my shot.
They're still
If
good,
I'm
but
aiming a
yeah,
really, I think for anything that's very clean and with highly reflective objects, ray trace reflections
ray
is kind of the
trace.
way to go because it's just
Yeah,
better. It's much sharper, cleaner reflections there.
totally.
The moment that it's more of an organic scene, like a forest or a cave or something, lumen reflections are great.
Hmm.
Because they actually reflect proper global illumination, whereas ray trace reflections don't actually reflect global illumination. So it's kind of the reflections are sharp, but they look off because the lighting doesn't quite match the reflection. So
So it
it's a
depends on the
challenge. It's
scene.
one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I would
it
say
really
I
depends
would
on the
say
shot.
exterior. Yeah, I would say exteriors. Then use lumen reflections, and interiors where there's glass and all these chromatic things and window. Let's use ray trace.
Yeah, for sure. I think it really depends on the shot for the most part.
Yep. Understandable. With that in mind, speaking of ray tracing and similar sorts of things, do you have any advice for, or maybe less advice and more just kind of general statements of what you think would be some of the pitfalls in the lighting process, especially from a performance perspective?
Right. Um, I mean, you're more in the game industry, Pasquale. So why don't you take this one?
Mhm. I would go more. I mean, for reflections, for performance, for reflection, ray trace is more demanding for reflections, and it's more. Yeah, lumen is more. I mean, it's less quality, but I mean, it's more performance for reflections. And then even there, it depends what mood you're trying to create. If you want realistic, reflection, then go with ray trace. Otherwise, lumen is perfect. I mean, performance.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your end goal is. Are
Yeah.
you trying to make
Hmm.
an interactive game? Then yeah, then performance is super important. If you're more like me
Hmm.
and like I don't care about I'm not
Yeah.
making a game. I'm making a pretty shot. Then like
Cinematic.
I
Yeah.
don't care if I'm working at like 4 FPS. It doesn't matter to me. Like I just want the
Yeah.
max possible quality, right? So I think it really
Mhm.
depends on. You just need to understand like what or decide rather what your end goal is. Like what are you trying to achieve, and then pick and
Yeah.
shoot from there.
Actually,
Yeah.
this is a good thing
Abs-
even for the challenge. Like, they don't have to focus on performance for the challenge. I mean, we don't care about the performance. We care about the cinematic that they're
Mm,
going to kick out of
yeah.
that scene. So I think it's
Yeah.
important. Even if they have frame rates that's 10 frame rates, it doesn't matter. It's just the cinematic that we want to see how good it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have a PowerPoint presentation level FPS
Mhm. Yeah.
as long as the
Yeah.
final render's good.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't crash.
Yeah.
That's the fine line there where like you can get slow frame rate and then when you try to render it out it just like doesn't render because it crashes all the time. So
And there,
yeah.
yeah.
Story of my life.
I was going to say, I feel like I just brought back bad memories for both of you with that.
You're not entirely
Oh, yeah.
wrong. Very many sleepless nights. Like, oh, this was supposed to be rendered yesterday. Cool. All right.
So it freezes or crashes. Two other things.
Which
Yeah.
one's worse, the
Been
freeze or
there.
crash?
I think the freeze because you have to reboot your computer. The
Mm.
crash,
Yeah,
maybe
that's the option. Yeah. Yeah, as long as it doesn't crash, then it's fine. Even if it's like rendering like 1 frame per hour, then like it's
Oh
rendering.
yeah.
It's fine. I can just like wait this one out. It's gonna be okay. Slowly back away from the computer. It's like gonna be fine. Don't touch it.
Set a fire extinguisher to the side just to be safe.
Yeah.
How do both of you go about making lens flares or God rays? Because it seems like the chat was very impressed with what they saw. So do you have any tips or tricks for that?
Well, for the God rays, it's usually the sun that gives the light shafts and turn on those. Or you could create how William said with the cards. And the lens flares, it's in post process. Always everything is in there. So lens flares even there. I just tone it down a little bit because it'll blow up everything. And, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think hit it on the head. I mean, there's not the post-processing volume, the exponential height fog actor. There's a few settings that you can control to choose how the God rays will. I need to find it. I think it's called.
That would
There's a very
affect.
specific setting here. I think it's the edge scattering exponent. I think it's this one. I need to turn it on, but I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. But I think it's the directional scattering exponent. No, maybe. Yeah, I would have to. I don't have it open in front of me. I had that in my scene, but definitely in one of my night lighting videos, I talked about that.
Mhm.
And it kind of changes how or where you see the light shots. Do you see them more from the side, or do you mostly see them when the camera's looking up at the light source? And there's a setting there, which again I talk about in that night lighting video, and that I cannot remember for the life of me off the top of my head. But yeah, there's a way to art direct how the volumetric fog will look in your scene.
Yep.
Looks like it's scattering is what you're looking for.
Got it.
Scattering frequency.
Thank you, Pedrag Pesic. I feel like I slaughtered that one.
Yeah, that's right. Scattering
What?
distribution. That's correct. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Right down. So, I mean, I don't have it here in my scene because I don't think I have it. Yeah, it's not going to look super hot because I don't have anything that can probably cast the shadows in this scene, so I've got nothing to show, sorry. But yeah, so in your exponential height fog, scattering distribution, between 0 and 1 will drastically affect the way that the God rays look, just not in this scene because there's nothing to cast shadows, so yeah.
Perfect. For the camera, since the submission for these is 10 to 30 second videos, right? So what camera settings would you recommend for doing close-ups versus landscape shots?
Oh, good
Usually
question. That's a big can of worms.
Yeah, usually close-ups, I use a 35, and then I use 50 for focal range. For close-up, 50 to 80.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think this,
yeah,
again,
let's
this
see.
kind of plays to your people's understanding of photography. Like if you're,
Yeah.
the more you're used to using a camera, you know which lenses to use, right? So if you really want to compress that background and make things look really good, like a longer focal length, it works really well. So like 80 to like even 200 millimeters will look really good. 35, there's no right or wrong answer for this. I think it's purely subjective and it just gives a very different feel. So, yeah.
Yeah, so now we're at 60 here. And
Yeah.
this little mushroom here. Yeah, it depends on the shot. Like in this shot, I'm using 57, 60 more. And then, you know, for landscape, I usually use 18 to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great advice there,
Yeah.
for sure. That
Having
one's
a-
going to be very helpful.
Yeah, I think having an understanding of focal length is really important because whether you go with a wide angle or a tight angle, like a longer focal length, that will totally change the look of a shot completely. It's day and night. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. It just looks different. It's not better or worse. It's just, you know, a wider angle allows you to get closer to your subject while still seeing quite a bit of the environment. So it's very common to use like 24 to 35 millimeters for more environmental portraits. So if you, I don't know, if you want to take a photo of a baker in the bakery, right, you can still get close to him where he's the dominant person figure in the shot, but still see a bit of the environment around you. But if you go for like a very tight, narrow shot, like a kind of a 85 to 200 millimeter range, then it gets much more up close and personal. Great for portraits because it presses the face nicely. You don't get that odd distortion, like, you know, when you accidentally turn on the front-facing camera on your phone and you're just like, ridiculous. That's kind of the opposite. So that's why using a longer focal length really helps compress that face and makes it very flattering look. So it really depends on your subject. So there's really no right or wrong answer here. It just requires an understanding of how lenses work.
Photography. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you often find yourself using console command when you're setting stuff up? Like when you used the sharpen command earlier, for example?
All the time.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it depends on the shot. Like I think there's a lot of like the foliage command. There's so many of them. I don't remember on the top of my head. I've made some dedicated videos on that on YouTube on my channel. But definitely, I think sometimes like there's lots of performance console commands that are on by default, and sometimes you'll notice your grass, your foliage just culls away, or it's like a lower LOD. Well, you can force the LOD with the console variable. So there's definitely lots that we use. There's so many. I don't think we can like name them all here.
There's plenty of them.
The ones are just some of the few that I use. There's so many. I think there's some Lumen ones you can use as well. How about you, Pasquale? What do you typically use?
I usually use those two: full stream, because it always gets up there, and sharpening tool. So two main ones that I use. And sometimes I force ray trace to not use it. So force all ray trace.
Okay, yeah, to make it faster in your viewport.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Actually, a helpful console variable. If ever you're writing a console variable in your, I can show this on my screen. In UE5, when you're entering a console variable at the bottom here, let's say I want to write r dot the sharpen one there. Yeah, R2 mapper sharpen, and in the value itself, if you write question mark and you press enter and you go to your output log, it's going to tell you what the console variable does. It's going to tell you which settings you can use. So 0 is off, 0.5 is half strength, 1 is full strength, and it's telling me right now that it is currently set to 2. So it tells you what the default is, it tells you what it is currently set to, and it tells you what it does. So using the question mark at the end of any given console variable can be tremendously helpful for figuring out what the heck it's doing, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's useful. Very useful
tip for anyone out there. It's kind of a lesser known thing.
Cool.
That one's a nice little hidden gem for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I use that all the time. Especially when you're troubleshooting, you're not quite sure, like trying to figure out why is my foliage being called out in my render, why is it disappearing. Before I start changing things, I
just
type a question mark and I figure out what I'm doing and what it is currently set to, because then that means I can easily revert to whatever the default was, because I can see there in the output log. So it's a lifesaver, to be honest.
Very useful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It sounds like a lifesaver. I mean, that was
Yes.
like the chat right now is everyone's freaking out. Just oh,
The question mark.
what was that? So, without going into your own interpretation of the theme, obviously, because we don't want to give out too many ideas for that. How would you go about this challenge? What would you watch out for? And how would you spend the time given the 4-week time frame?
I would go.
Go ahead.
No, go you. Go.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Okay, fair enough. I would probably, honestly, not worry too much about other people and try not to worry too much about what others are doing, because there's always someone better. And so trying to like one-up everyone, it's better to focus on something that you are passionate about. If there's an kind of environment you want to make that you've always kind of wanted to do, but you never got around to it or whatever, now's the time to kind of use it as a passion project, right?
Yeah.
Just definitely use this as a way to, because you're going to want to work on something that makes you excited. You're not going to want to work on something that's just like, you're kind of feeling iffy about it. I kind of have to do this or whatever. So I think excitement is more important than, like, it's the journey, not the destination, right? So that's probably how I would go about doing it.
Yeah. And then the theme, just, select the theme that you want. If you want horror, then, go in that mood. And if you want a nice landscape with nice, beautiful, sunny sky, then go in that direction and so on. Depends.
I like that it's vague.
Yeah, that's
I think it's a really good thing.
This is a great challenge.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Great advice for kind of a direction there. Because I know it can feel a little overwhelming at first, especially because the theme is so vague. I know sometimes that can trip people up. You want something very literal. But yeah, I think I agree with what you were saying, William. Try and find something that is cool, first of all. Just maybe something you've been wanting to do for a while. Something that you can experiment with and have fun with, ideally. It would be a shame if at the end of the 4 weeks it's turned into one of those projects that you look at and you hate everything about it.
I mean, I've been there. I know that feeling. Like you start off, with like all the excitement in the world, and it very quickly, it quickly doesn't quite turn out the way you expect it to, and you're just like, oh, it's not a fun feeling. I've been there, and it can happen. It happens to the best of us. So. Don't worry about it too much. Like, just don't worry about what others are doing, and maybe try not to like. Are people allowed to post like works in progress anywhere? Because I know some challenges have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So
you can post you can post works in progress. You can ask for help on certain things as well. You can ask for opinions. All that really matters is you make sure you have your final submission in before it's over.
Cool.
And then
that's cool.
Yeah, that's really important. I think part of my biggest learning experience had been like on the Polycount forums, like back in the day, like back in 2008. This was like a very game art focused forum, and people would post their works in progress, and it was an amazing learning experience to have seasoned veterans just kind of comment and just destroy you with criticism, like really harsh criticism at the time. But that's how you learn. And so as long as it's not personal, they're not like personally attacking you, and it's constructive feedback. And if you apply that to your work, you will get better. You will improve.
You'll get better.
Yeah, I know it is. Especially when it's a personal project, it can feel personal, but it's not about you as a person. It's about the work itself.
Yeah, and I get it because we pour our heart and soul and our hard-earned time into a project. And when someone's like, "This looks like crap," it's like, "Well, why?" so I get it. But it's not, again, like you say, it's not you. This is how you can actually make it better. So use that as a learning opportunity. Use that as a way of think of the internet as your mentor of sorts. So. That's my way of seeing it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Also,
and please help each other.
Don't accept criticism from someone you wouldn't from someone you don't necessarily take everything with a grain of salt too, because you don't know who the person commenting is, right? So if someone's really vicious or something, like, what, I probably wouldn't ask them for advice myself. So why would I take their criticism, right? So you gotta pick and choose sometimes, and because the internet can be a pretty harsh place, as we all know. So, but yeah, I don't think anyone's out there to get you. So,
except for me, better watch out. I think one of my favorite things that I was ever told when I was going through art school, because I think it's really easy for all artists to take all types of critique that you get very seriously and very literally, and I need to change everything and delete it all and just start over. This is garbage. But I think the best thing is first take in any critique that you're given. Look at your project with a very technical eye and see if what they're saying makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Just move on. You don't have to take everything into account.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just the pieces that make sense. There is just a couple more questions that I want to try and squeeze in here real quick, if you're good with that. But since it is a 4-week time frame, it's for some people so much, and for others not nearly enough. So
that's a pretty short challenge.
When it comes to setting up their scene and getting their lighting going, if they're just not vibing with it, it just doesn't seem like it's working out, would you recommend trying to fix something? Or would you, like you were saying earlier, you in particular, William, would you recommend just starting over? Do you think it's worth just scrapping it, starting over, and going at it from a fresh perspective?
I think it really depends on the shot. I think sometimes there's no, because lighting itself is so fast. It doesn't, placing lights is not hard. So you can absolutely experiment and try new things. Like when I'm lighting something, I have so many folders in my outliner. Like, oh, okay, this is one lighting scenario I've got here. I'll hide that, start from scratch, totally black scene, and just place more lights, and basically just throw a whole bunch of mud at the wall until something sticks. And really, like that's what works for me. I would love to say that I have this vision in my head and I know exactly what I'm doing. The secret is I have no idea what I'm doing, and I just know when to stop. I think the important thing is to know to have the eye for it, right, and to know when to stop and know when things are looking good. Because what's dangerous, what can happen sometimes is there was a specific way of saying it. I'm trying to remember. You can improve it into a failure up to a point. Like if you start like reworking it, and sometimes you push it so far that like it deteriorates. It actually made it worse. And so that's why like as I go every single day, I save a screenshot of what I did, because especially when you're working on something long term, sometimes at the end of the day you wonder like, what the heck did I do today? I didn't do anything. I didn't get anything done. It's really depressing. And then if you look back at yesterday's screenshot, you can compare and be like, oh, I actually did do a lot, or like, oh, actually I made this shot worse, which happens. I think has that happened to you before?
Yeah, I usually have a vision in my head what I want, but yeah,
you're a proper artist.
The thing I want,
you're a real artist.
it's totally up to them what to do. I usually would do even a mood board. So set up a mood board, what environment, what mood you're trying to achieve, and then go in that direction. And then if you say, oh my God, it's nothing like that, then I mean, start again until you get there. Just delete all the lights again and start from scratch. Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, that's not time consuming. It's not like actually. It's different from environment art because it's not like I have to restart and make this whole level from scratch again. Like no, it's just placing a few lights, and again, less is more. So often start with the big, major light shapes first.
The base one,
yeah. Start big and then work your way down to the smaller ones there. Yeah.
Well, I have a question. If someone gives us a cinematic that's created with baked light, that's good, right? Even
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it can be baked lighting. It just can't be edited from outside the engine. Yeah. But anything that's done locally should be fine.
Okay.
Cool.
I have a question for both of you, and this one's from me. As I mentioned earlier, I have a too much gene where I want to keep adding and making and going and going and going. So do you have any suggestions for knowing when to stop? When is the project done and good enough? Because I'm sure all of us could continue to work on our projects until the end of days and think that there's something else that can be fixed. So when do you think is the right time to say, okay, I've done it. This is enough?
When that's a hard question because my scene just continues always. They always try to make them better and better and better, and they never stop. It's like a loop. Mm-hmm. Some of them I like them. Then I say, okay, I think I'm good. And I did every mood that I could do, and I think I'm good. Mm-hmm. But it's a hard question.
I think it really there comes a point where you get to some serious diminishing returns. So getting 80% of the way there takes about 10% of the time. Like it's like the last 10% or last 20% of getting that final result takes up so much more time. It is really, really hard. So you could spend like 2 weeks on that last little 10%. Getting up to 80% done, like I can do that in like an hour, less than that, like 5 minutes. But then like really finessing it and polishing it and really getting it to a flavor I'm happy with, that takes a lot more time. And not just the lighting, but like just the composition, the framing and stuff, and like picking and choosing. Okay, like where do I even want my light to come from? Like I'm always wondering. And like you say, like you're never really done with the project. And this applies to like I think everything. At least for me, like in VFX, like we're never done with the shot. We just run out of time or run out of budget or whatever. So that's really all. You just kind of do what you can with the time that's given you, and from there, like
Then
at some
you
point, like
stop.
yeah, like you get diminishing returns. Like, yeah, okay, I could probably spend another week working on this, but is it gonna get, like a week better, so to speak? Like, I know a week is not really a measurement there, but you get the idea. Like, it's just at some point, like, you have to ask yourself, is this really worth spending much more time on, right? So, and that's where saving screenshots is useful, from a day-to-day basis, because then you actually see the progress, like a visual representation of your progress, and something you're like, okay, the past 2 days, I did make it a little bit better, but like, if you didn't know, you wouldn't really notice, right? So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's just a fun idea to have a screenshot of each day at the end of the project as well, just for if you're putting together a portfolio piece or something, then you can literally see the daily progress, which is kind of fun just in and of itself. So
a time lapse of what you're doing. That's great.
Yeah.
It makes a great little like GIF that you can play afterward. It's a really cool way to showcase your work. Like, this is the work in progress. This is how I started. This was my entire progress moving forward. So I think it's awesome to see. It's great footage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so this is the big one. What are your final closing important tips to give to people? For example, the two that I have is save often and save duplicates. Those are my tips to you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Save, because you're concentrating on the scene, so the lighting, the movement, and then you don't realize that after 30 minutes or 40 minutes you're in there, it just crashes and you do not save. And saving is totally a must. Every 5 minutes.
We lost you, William. There you are.
But yeah, I think that those are great points, Pasquale. I totally agree. Yeah. For me, I think the main thing I would say is test often and test early, or test early, test often. So set up a camera as soon as possible, and try to see if your shot works even before any lighting. See if the composition works. See if the framing of the shot works. Try out the depth of field. Depth of field is also pretty big, have a big impact on composition as well. So I would definitely do that as soon as possible. Set up your camera early. Test if your shot work. Test often and test early. It's really important.
Yeah. All very great advice.
Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. Like I said, just throw so much mud at the wall, and at some point, something will stick. Like, experiment. Try things you would never even consider normally. It doesn't matter, because at some point you're like, oh, that actually looks really cool. And some of the best shots I've ever done were purely accidental. I'm like, oh, cool, this worked. Awesome. Next. So,
yeah, awesome. Happy accidents. We'll Bob Ross our way through it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that in mind, couple last statements for the chat here and for any of our wonderful contestants. While you're working on stuff like we were saying before, please don't be afraid to reach out to get critiques and advice. Everybody, please be nice to each other and please help your fellow contestants. I know that, yes, this is a challenge and everybody's fighting for that #1 spot, but we can also do it while helping out the people around us. Please don't sabotage your fellow ladies, okay? I am asking you, please have mercy. While you're working on your stuff, don't forget to use the hashtag Unreal Challenge. That way it's easier for not only us to find all of your stuff, but all of your fellow contestants so we can see what everyone's working on. And if you're having fun with this challenge, make sure you keep an eye out for the fall, where we may or may not be having our next big jam of some kind. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, so I'm so excited. Again, thank you both so much for not only agreeing to come on the stream today, but also for being the judges. I really sincerely appreciate it. And I'm so excited to see what comes from this challenge. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having us.
Of course. Yeah. I seriously, I can't thank you enough. It's It's going to be so cool. I'm going to be geeking out over every time that a new submission comes in. I'm going to be sitting there playing it on loop like 7 times in a row. Just, oh, wow, look at that. That's so cool. But with that, I think we should probably call it, just because Jack, the supervisor, has made his statements clear. Enough is enough. He's like, all right, wrap it up. Right. We're done here.
Yeah. Daddy, you have to bring me outside now.
Yeah. Thank you again both so much for coming on. And thank you everybody who came to watch today as well. And thank you if you're going to join the challenge. Please do. There's a spot for everyone. We're excited to see what you come up with. And don't forget that the stream is also saved in VOD format afterwards, so you can come back and watch this on demand if you missed parts of it or you want to go back to see some tips and tricks that you maybe forgot to write down in the moment. No worries. We save the VOD on both our YouTube and Twitch channels, and you can find that at the Unreal Engine official channel on both. Also, don't forget to follow us on Unreal Engine at all of our social media as well, where you can keep up on some cool things that we're doing besides just the challenge. And come say hi in our forums, where you can get the latest news and also find all links associated with today's stream, as well as where you can find these two and their incredible work and all of the cool things that they've done, so that you can get some inspiration for your project as well. But yeah, with that, I think we'll call it there. Thank you both so much, and I will see everybody else next week. Yeah.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, William.
No problem.
Chat later.
Thank you, man.
Awesome.
Thank you both. Take care.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye, man.